Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Paranormal News. Tonight's article is a fun one. It comes from ScreenRant.com, and the headline is Why Werewolf Horror Movies Aren't as Popular Now. It was written by Marion Phillips, and it was published January 3rd, 2021. For decades, werewolf horror movies evoked fear and excitement, but they haven't reached the same amount of popularity today. Here's why it changed. In recent years, there has been a substantial lack of werewolf horror movies in comparison to other creature features. The werewolf is a classic monster that has origins in the very early years of Universal Pictures, which was founded in 1912. In fact, the first werewolf movie was released in 1913, when the company was under the name Universal Film Manufacturing Company, and was simply titled The Werewolf. It's typical for monsters and creatures with deep roots in horror history to have long-standing popularity in the genre, but the werewolf tends to be the least popular in recent years. Werewolves appear in popular culture quite frequently, but not to the extent that vampires, witches, demons, and other monsters do. Even Frankenstein has made more appearances than the Wolfman. The most recent addition to the shrinking subgenre of creature features is Shudder's Creepshow Holiday Special, which didn't necessarily take a serious approach to the beast. Nonetheless, the special did reference several iconic werewolf horror movies. Collectively, Nicotero's movie included Easter eggs for An American Werewolf in London, The Wolfman, and the Underworld franchise. The main takeaway from this special was that the horror aspects of the classic creature feature have been somewhat lost in favor of a more gimmicky rendition of werewolves. In order to understand how werewolves became gimmicky, it's important to look back towards a few movies in particular. Despite their popularity amongst tweens, teens, and everything in between, the Twilight Saga did not do any favors for werewolves in horror movies. There was even an even more egregious parody of the movie that released which poked further fun at the shape-shifting beast that used to evoke fear rather than create an extremely bizarre love triangle. While the Twilight movies were an undeniable influence on the decrease in the creature's popularity in more horror-geared titles, it wasn't the only movie or franchises that contributed to this decline. It also assisted in popularizing them for more teen-oriented content, like the show Teen Wolf. There are over 100 movies and TV shows that feature some variation of the werewolf creature. The creature is commonly depicted as a man, very rarely a woman, who has been bitten by a werewolf, cursed by a witch, or inherited the gene somehow. Perhaps the most iconic image of the Wolfman is Lon Chaney Jr.'s depiction of the Wolfman in 1941. He set the precedent for the modern werewolf. Once horror comedies started becoming popular in the 1980s, An American Werewolf in London altered the perception of how a creature feature could navigate the vicious curse. At the same time, slasher horror flicks were becoming the latest trend, and werewolves, vampires, and other creatures started to seem like a thing of the past. As the year 2000 was nearing, creators returned to the classic with a very particular image in mind. The Underworld franchise combined vampires and werewolves, made them exist in the same universe, and added an abundance of action. While there are horror aspects in each of the franchise's movies, they are far more often considered dark fantasy action flicks rather than horror. Thus, the start of an all-new werewolf began. However, this was short-lived due to what took place in the early 2010s. The werewolf had a genuine opportunity to become popular again, but the movie market became oversaturated with Twilight, Underworld, Teen Wolf, The Wolfman, Red Riding Hood, The Howling, Reborn, and countless others. Today, werewolves are seen as less horrifying and more of a gimmick. They are almost entirely allocated to horror comedies like Wolf Cop and Creepshow's Holiday Special, or used as a tool to create an unrequited romance like Twilight. With Blumhouse Productions upcoming The Wolfman remake on the horizon, it could be exactly what werewolf horror movies need to become popular in the 2020s, as this classic monster is the one that's perhaps in most desperate need of a modern and scarier update. And that is the end of this article. Now, one thing I will agree with from this article is that they absolutely oversaturate the market with whatever's popular at the time. They bring up werewolves here, but they did it with vampires. They did it with zombies, is the most recent thing. Is once zombies became popular again, The Walking Dead happened, they came up with World War Z, they came up with all these other shows about zombies, and all these movies came out about zombies, and it just gets to the point where people are tired of seeing it. But one thing I don't agree with is kind of bashing the werewolf comedy thing that they got going, and the stuff that's not like super horror, like Twilight and Teen Wolf and all those kind of things. I don't mind those movies. I really enjoyed the original Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox. I thought that was a brilliant movie. I really liked it. I also really enjoyed the Twilight series. I know that's a shocking thing for a person that's involved in horror to say, but it was a good story. I mean, it's who cares if it's not very complex, and who cares if it's scary or not? Let's face it, guys, most horror movies aren't scary. Even the ones that are supposedly the scariest movie you've seen in a decade, they're garbage, most of them. They are. They're not very good. The plot sucks. The special effects are garbage. The story is garbage. The acting is garbage. They're not very good movies. And they're not scary. So I say enjoy whatever you enjoy, man. If you're into cheesy horror movies, then enjoy them. I'm into cheesy horror movies too. Just because I don't think a movie is very good, like very complex and very groundbreaking as far as the quality, doesn't mean I don't enjoy it. I really liked like the Friday 13th series, and most of those in the beginning were absolute garbage. I mean, they're really low budget. They're terrible, but I really enjoyed them. I like cheesy horror movies like that, and sometimes they're so cheesy they're great. You know, look at the Evil Dead series. Now, Evil Dead, brilliant movies, but they're not exactly high budget, groundbreaking films. I mean, they've got kind of almost like a claymation feel to them. They're kind of cheesy, you know, especially when you're talking like Army of Darkness. That was a cheesy as hell movie. That was a comedy, but I absolutely loved it. So my point here is enjoy what you enjoy, man. If just because they put werewolves in comedy, and just because they put werewolves in movies like Twilight, which aren't true horror movies, doesn't mean anything. They're still around. It's not like they've disappeared. The worst thing would be for them to just disappear. I'd much rather have them in kids programs and in tween and teen movies than have them not be around at all. So enjoy it. And that doesn't mean they can't come out with a badass werewolf movie that's going to scare the hell out of you. They still can. You know, one of my favorite all-time werewolf movies ever was Silver Bullet. I thought Silver Bullet was an amazing movie. I love that wheelchair that Corey Haim drove in that movie. It was like a motorcycle. I think it was badass. I love that movie. Now, maybe people won't say that that's a real werewolf movie. I don't know. But I really enjoyed it. So anyway, let me know down in the comments what you guys think. That's the end of this one. Let me know if you agree with me or if you think I'm out of my mind. Either way is fine. I love you guys, and I will catch you on the next one. Until I speak to you again. Love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do I. Bye-bye.